Johnson here with Rich Franklin at MMA World Academy in Scarborough. What brings you to Canada?
Came up here to do the seminar, just hang out at the school for a little while, just chilling.
Yeah, how'd the seminars go?
It went really well. The first one was, I think, a little too early.
Okay.
And we, had maybe less than a dozen people here, maybe 10 people. But the second session, really well. It's always crazy when you walk in and do seminars because there's such a variance in skill level that you, on the fly, almost have to adjust what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. How was the skill level like around here, was it?
We had some guys who were adept at what we were doing, and guys that really maybe like their first time on the mat. So you have to be able to have part of your group move along and progress while the other part you keep working the things that they need to work.
Yeah, you don't want anybody to get hurt either, right?
Yeah, well, my seminars are all about learning anyway. I'm not one that says, I made a comment at the beginning of my seminar. I went to a seminar one time where they had us running around the mat for 45 minutes, it seemed like, and I just thought to myself, I didn't pay a good chunk of change to learn how to run around the mat, So I'm always about getting people warmed up and getting them going right away, light techniques, and you're there to learn. And if you can walk away from a seminar with a couple good nuggets of information, then it was money well spent.
Right on. Well, you're very well-rounded in martial arts as well, but you're also really well-known for your conditioning. And did you do any conditioning stuff with these people, or kind of give them any ideas about what you do in your conditioning?
No, I'll ask. I tell everybody to ask questions at the end, and I probably should incorporate like a little sit-down session of like, what kind of training questions do you guys have? Because the moment when you say anybody have any questions, they're thinking about the techniques, and then when you sit down, it's like, anybody want to ask me a question? They're going to start asking like questions about the UFC, funny stories. They don't think about that training aspect of things. So I should probably incorporate that. It's a good idea. Thanks for giving me that.
Yeah, you take that with you today.
Yeah, there you go. I got something from you today.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you got a fight coming up, UFC 148 with Cung.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Cung is an interesting opponent. There's not a lot of guys out there like him. He throws very unique combinations. He's got a very unique style. How do you feel you match up with him, and how do you think, without giving away too much, the fight will go?
I think I match up well. He does pose a lot of problems, and you're right. It's going to be the trick for this fight is finding somebody who can mimic his style. The proper training partner is the key to winning this thing. So we'll get on that. I've already started kind of searching that out and seeing what my options are. But yeah, he's very unorthodox with his stand-up, and that's going to create the problem. So my goal, I guess, the key to winning the fight for me is just not staying in his kicking range. And I fought Chuck. Chuck broke my arm with a kick. Kung's done the same thing to Frank Shamrock, and I just need to not stand in that kicking range. I need to either use my distancing to either elongate or close the distance, one or the other, but not be there. And I'm sure that when we get into the camp breakdown, that's basically what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, and one of his most powerful techniques isn't really a round kick. It's more of a spinning kick. He kicks like a mule,
Yeah.
He really kicks right through you.
Yeah.
And he's hurt a lot of guys with that, so that's another reason to stay out of that range.
And the thing about that kick is that anytime somebody spins, you kind of, what happens a lot of times, you get frozen. You get frozen in the moment. And when you pause, oftentimes you have trouble identifying what's coming. You don't know if it's a spinning back fist or a spinning like heel kick or a mule kick or whatever's coming. So it's really difficult to identify those things. And Cung does a good job of chambering his legs, so you really don't know where it's coming.
Yeah. So moving along, you're well known as being one of the nicest guys in MMA. You represent the sport really well. As the sport was going through probably the biggest expansion that it had so far, you were one of the champions, and you've continued to have big fights and get big wins. With you being one of the guys who is easy to market, you speak very well. You can go out and do a lot of interviews and stuff. Does it kind of bother you when people compare the sport with WWE, using examples of guys who like trash talk a lot and kind of might give MMA fighters a less of a good image?
Yeah, I'll just say, people have to realize, like, if you meet any of the, I don't want to talk bad about the WWE, because those guys, first of all, in the WWE, you're not a fighter, but you are an athlete, and those guys are legit athletes. And So people have to realize they're there for entertainment. These guys get out and they say stupid things and all this kind of stuff, and that's what they're paid to. You're paid to be a bad guy. You're paid to say dumb things. You're paid to create a storyline. And what people don't realize is that after the wrestling match, those guys are back in the locker room and they're chuckling it up and they're having a beer together later that night or whatever it is that they're doing. And in MMA, you'll get some guys that'll talk trash and stuff like that. And when you have a genuine dislike for somebody and you want to build a fight, great, more power to you. But when you're out there trying to talk trash like a WWE person just to talk trash or whatever, sometimes it can bring a bad light on the sport. And we've done as much as we possibly can to get the sport to where it is. I think at this point in time, really, the trash talking that one particular individual does isn't going to matter one way or the other because the sport speaks for itself. Its safety record. Overall, you see guys that are talking trash. One of the biggest trash talkers, Chael Sonnen, but he's a great sportsman. He'll be one that'll run his mouth the whole time leading up to a fight. But when the fight's over, it's all about the hugs and good job and all that kind of stuff until the next fight again.
Do you think that sells more fights with the average MMA fan nowadays, as opposed to two guys who are very respectful and cordial to each other?
I don't know. I think it depends on the fighter sometimes. I think I've always done a good job with my pay-per-views and whatnot. I think my pay-per-views sell, and I think people know that. With me, it's kind of like buying something, and you know that you're getting a good product before you buy it based on the product's reputation. People know that when they buy a fight, when they buy a Rich Franklin fight, that when they buy one of my fights, that it's going to be an exciting fight because I put myself out there. Win or lose, I'm putting myself out there. It's going to be exciting. But there is something to say. Sometimes I see fighters and when they're squaring off at the weigh-ins and one fighter pushes another, I even have the tendency to be like, oh, I want to see that fight. It's not going to make the fight any better. They were going to come out and fight their hearts out anyway, regardless. But for whatever reason, it does. And I think if everybody was the quote-unquote nice guy, then it may be a little boring. So you kind of need that full spectrum.
Sure. Yeah. Now you mentioned Chael Sonnen. He's kind of a hot topic these days. Obviously, he's fighting for a title, so he's got a lot of attention on himself, and he brings a lot of attention on himself. One of the things that he said that is probably my favorite quote from him is that he's like a bomb, and when he goes off, everybody around him gets dirty. Yeah. And one of the things he's been saying from time to time when he's trying to get into Anderson Silva's head is he says that Anderson beat a math teacher to get the title shot. Now, I find that might be a bit disrespectful. Does that bother you at all, or?
I don't care about that. So you beat an intelligent fighter. I've got more important things to worry about than Chelsea. Trust me, I'm going to lose this
when you were jamming, you went 1-2, I think. Yeah, so that's
he's on a run now, though, so it's not about then, it's about now, and we'll see what happens. And a lot of that stuff that Chelsea says is stuff that he doesn't really have to about certain things. So I end up being like stuff like that. If it did hurt my feelings, I don't know. I got a pretty rough
Yeah. Now, one other thing that happened was at the fan show. You were speaking, I think, at shows, and Rampage had missed his weight, and you just were speculating as to what would have happened to make him miss his weight. He's not doing that, and he got pretty offended by it, but he tends to be a sensitive guy. Has there ever been, a lot of fans are talking about that being a great fight. Is there any offer about that or any talk about that?
No, because that had just recently happened, and we were already beginning to talk seriously about this. And I'm going to go back to the question that you asked me when you asked me the word speculating. And that's all I was speculating about what was gone wrong with the camp. And the three options that came out is take the fight seriously, didn't take the weight cut seriously, or didn't. And I offered some suggestions. He got a little fired up, but at the end, he ended up telling Ariel Helwani in the interview that he got injured. So it's not as if I was off base with it, but whatever. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe come to some action next time. Who knows?
One other thing I wanted to ask you about is your future going forward. You're at a point in your career where you can basically pick fights that are more interesting to yourself. You're
185. They talk about title hunt. Site. That would be a great city. How awesome would that be to get down to 185 title again? It would be great. That doesn't mean that I'm sitting here going, well, I want that fighting advantage and I want a better fighter. If that comes, it comes. Right now, I'm not one to think about that I'm going on the line. Thinking about all these other people.
Now you're obviously, you haven't taken really like a lot of stuff in life. Not a guy who gets knocked out frequently. Really like that. The only time is being basically your belt.
Yeah.
And so you can keep fighting, I imagine, as long as you'd like to. Do you have an age set or certain goals you want to accomplish, and then you'll start to think about maybe?
I think my approach, I'll tell you, there was a point in time in this career, I'm still somebody that came to me and I fought like that I should have fought. It's really bad if you go to the camp and you're already kind of like a 2 hour training. You're able to count. That's when that fight was lost. Beat for a great fight. So it is what it is. I think downtime, breaking my arm, the shoulder surgery that I've had made me really appreciate what I have. I really enjoy being in the gym. I enjoy doing what I do for a living. I did the right thing to be in the end. However, I'm going to do my career. I know I can see where and one day I'll wake up and I'll just say, I know what I'm going to do. Mentally, I know what I'm going to do. In this fight, so I'll get there mentally before I think one day I'll just wake up and say,